is the chairman of India's largest industrial house, but his name is also a byword for excellence in business. She's his wife, but she's also his partner. No wonder the press simply can't stop talking about them. But how did they meet, and more importantly, what are they like? Well, today is your chance to find out as I introduce you to Nita and Mukesh Ambani. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Karan.
Let's start with your marriage. The story says that, in fact, it all goes back to a dance concert in Bombay at a cultural show when a couple in the audience couldn't stop looking at you. Is that true?
Yes, it is, Karan. This goes back 19 years. I used to take part in an annual Navratri dance ballet. It was for the Gujarati community. And I said, we're doing this since the time I was a little girl. At that time, I really did not know that somebody was watching me.
You had absolutely no idea.
Absolutely no.
A couple of days later, the phone rang, and the gentleman who called identified himself, and you thought it was a joke.
This was in mid-October. I was busy studying for my exams, and the phone rings. I pick it up. The caller identifies himself as Mr. Dhirubhai Ambani. I put it down knowing it's a crank call. He calls again, the phone rings, I go and pick it up. Again he identifies himself as Mr. Dhirubhai Ambani. I tell him, please stop this, stop fooling and put down the phone. I got a little agitated at that time. The third time the phone rings, I don't even bother to pick it up. My father picks up the phone, and I was watching him, and suddenly his expression changed. He puts his hand in the speaker and says, Nita, it is really Mr. Dhirubhai Ambani. And can you please talk to him politely? That's where it all began.
Mukesh, at the time, did you have any idea that your parents had seen Nita and were interested in her?
No, at that time, like, this was typical Dhirubhai. I was very busy, like, focusing on Patal Ganga and the career, and yes, they had my consent in terms of saying that yes, if I believed in the arranged marriage, and he said okay, and the way he worked this out was he was independently talking to Nita, independently talking to me, and proving to both of us that it was in our individual interests that we did.
So he really was playing matchmaker in the real sense.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
But you know, most young people, when they know that their parents are busy arranging their marriage, are very nervous, or at least apprehension. Were you nervous?
No, I was not. In fact, I had said to my mother and Papa that it would be my decision, but they can have the fun of like looking at all different families and all different prospective brides. And the way it turned out, Nita was the first girl in that sense that I met, and I didn't have to look for any other person.
But in fact, there's more to this amazing story than just that, because he invited you to his office and you agreed to go, and I gather you still hadn't any idea what he had in mind.
These were the days of 1984. Mr. Dhirubhai Ambani was a big idol for everybody in college. And when he invited me, I said, look, I'm going to get a chance to meet Mr. Dhirubhai Ambani.
That in itself was enough for you.
That was enough for me.
But you had no idea that he was thinking of you as a potential daughter-in-law.
I think it would be,
have crossed your mind.
Yes, it did cross my mind, but I really just wanted to go and meet him at that time. And what struck me, Karan, was his warmth and his simplicity, you know, and the way he greeted me, and an instant rapport built up between both of us.
He even, I believe, asked you almost immediately, do you want to meet my son?
He didn't do that, but he coaxed me very gently, I must say.
Did you need coaxing?
At that time I did.
He invited Nita to dinner not much later, and I gather you were the one who opened the door. And I assume that's the first time you saw her.
Yes, that was the first time that I met Nita, and like he had built my expectations, and I had, you know, generally said that, you know, Papa, like, I understand what you are saying, but ultimately it is I who am going to marry Nita and not you.
So when you
So
opened the door
when
that
I-
evening, was your heart in your mouth?
So when I opened the door, like, Nita was like stunning, but for me it was even beyond that. I was wanting to make sure that our values matched. I was wanting to make sure that we really think alike, so that we can spend a lifetime together.
You said
And-
in your interviews that the one thing that struck you about Mukesh was his humility and his soft-spoken nature. Was he also a little shy?
Mukesh takes a little bit longer to open up, but he's a very intense person, and those close to him, he believes in long-lasting relationships, and he opens up to a very few people,
And that was an aspect of him that actually you found endearing.
and that's right.
The courtship that followed meant that he came almost every day in a green Fiat, but he was always late, you say.
Yes. You know, Mukesh, those
Because
days,
late business is a state of mind, right?
yes, it happens ongoing. It's a story of a life. But those days, I think he was building our first polyester plant in Patal Ganga, which is 3 hours away from the city of Mumbai.
So you had competition.
Yes, absolutely, you know. And many people told me, look, Nita, you come only second. It's Patal Ganga that's first for Mukesh.
Not true.
Nita says that every evening when you came in that famous green Fiat, you would always take her for pav bhaji on the streets of Bombay. Why were you avoiding the good, expensive restaurants?
Frankly, Karan, like, you know, after 11:30, like, the best food in Bombay
Is out on the street.
Out on the streets at 11:30 in the night or around midnight. So, like, but I think that having grown up in Bombay, we've really know all the little places, and I wanted to have to make sure that Nita and I have enough time together. And
You didn't want all the distractions of the attention of being seen in a big restaurant either.
Combination. I have taken her out like many times too, so she got a full variety of everything, from eating on the street, so she knows the real me, and going out wherever else. I think the important thing for us was to
be
spend
together.
the time, like, to get to know each other.
He was very ardent in his wooing, wasn't he? He sent you roses every single day.
He did, every morning, red roses,
Always red.
always red.
Are you a romantic, or was that a strategic decision?
With Nita, like, everything is straight from the heart. There is no strategy at all.
Thank you.
Now, not much later, I gather it was November 1984, he proposed. But I'm also told that he did it very cleverly.
Yes. You know, we were driving on Pedder Road. It is one of the busiest roads in Mumbai, and it's peak time traffic, 8 o'clock in the evening. And suddenly, he stops the car. I wonder what's happening. And he asks me, will you marry me?
Just like that.
Just like that. And
With traffic whizzing by on either side.
it was,
No, I thought I prepared you before that. No?
it was, we had
Okay.
met, you know, over a fortnight, and, you know, we used to like spending time with each other, look forward to spending time with each other. And I looked at him and said, maybe.
That's it.
Wait. So he says, no, tell me yes or no. And right now, by this time, there's total chaos. There were people shouting on the road, there were cars honking, but he just wouldn't move. He said, tell me yes or no right now.
See, I'm a black or white guy.
Black or white, or a little bit of a blackmailer as well. Did you choose the moment instinctively, or had you planned this?
No, I just thought that, like, you know, this was it, and like,
How many minutes passed before she said that critical word, yes?
Nita was like very spontaneous. At least I thought it was very spontaneous. It
I
was,
think
like,
time stopped at that moment.
It
We
was,
really don't know.
it
And
was like,
if, God forbid, Nita had said no, would you still be stuck on Breda Road?
actually, Nita asked me this question. Like, just 2 hours, I was saying, if I had said no, what would you have done? Would you have asked me to walk out of the car at that time? And I said, no, I wouldn't have asked you to walk out of the car. I would have said, yes, I'm still too much of a gentleman to do that. I would have dropped you to your home, and I would have still been very good friends with you.
But you'd have gone home with a broken heart.
Absolutely.
Marriage made you an Ambani daughter-in-law. I imagine life changed pretty dramatically at that point.
Surprisingly, no, Karan. You know, the values of my family and Mukesh's family were almost very similar. It was a very closely bond family. Anil, Dipti, Nina, we used to have dinner time together, a lot of happiness and a lot of caring and sharing. So it really was quite smooth, the transition. And I think I became more of a daughter than a daughter-in-law, in true sense.
She told me feels like my house, like, you know, this is like, I mean, in that sense, I think that we still like live like an ordinary family, contrary to all external like perceptions.
The pivot of the family, of course, was the man who was matchmaker,
Absolutely.
Dhirubhai. You used to spend 7:30 in the evening every day with him, didn't you?
Oh, Papa was quite a taskmaster, I must say. 7:30 in the evening was half an hour with him alone. And he used to quiz me, Karan, on different questions. Share market, reliance, politics, world affairs, international affairs. And every time I was forced to read up, and I would prepare myself for the next day.
I would get a phone call saying, what is Papa going to ask me today? So I said, yeah, maybe this, this and this. And like, and at 8 o'clock we used to always have fun after that, go on.
But the next day the questions would be entirely different and would have me totally stumped. And I think those were my growing up years, really, with wonderful memories of Papa.
So a lot of the Nita sitting in front of me is actually his creation.
Yes.
Let's take a break at that point. I want to come back in part 2 and talk not about how the two of you met, but about your life together and those values that are so important to you, which you share. We'll be back in a moment's time. See you then. Welcome back. My guests are Nita and Mukesh Ambani. Let's talk a little about each of you. I gather you come from a very traditional, joint Gujarati family, and when everyone's together, there are as many as 26 at the dinner table.
And 11 cousins.
37 in all.
That's
What sort
right.
of childhood was it?
Wonderful, beautiful. Very, very, very close bonds. Very happy, carefree. A lot of caring and a lot of sharing.
You often talk about your maternal grandmother Subhadra Bhen. You describe her as the pillar of the family.
She was the most beautiful lady that I remember. Tall, elegant, very warm and compassionate. She held all of us together. Imagine 37 of us living under one roof. And I still kind of remember her with very fond memories.
In contrast, you grew up amidst affluence. Were you spoilt as a child?
No, I don't think so. I
Not
think
even a
that-
teensy-weensy bit?
No, I really think that, you know, for us, all four of us, myself, Anil, Dipti, Nina, we were a very close-knit family. And in those years, right, Papa, like, spent an awful amount of time with us. While, like, the business was being, and these are the most difficult years of growing a business from
So
scratch.
he always found time for his children.
It was every Sunday that was 100% devoted to us, every evening. In fact, we had a lot of time from him. And
Was he indulgent or was he a disciplinarian?
I think he was neither. What he did is brought the best out of all four of us. And you know, he was not the typical disciplinarian, or like he would not spoil, like except my youngest sister Nina, but that also within limits. He always focused in terms of bringing the best out of you, giving you the space, giving you the encouragement, and always like his general view, and one of my take homes was that never have an inferiority complex, never like think that you know you
can't
cannot do it. He would encourage us, he would really like stretch the envelope, and I think that for each one of us in the family, and me particularly, like that whole relationship is something that is a lesson on a lifelong basis.
Nita, you started working shortly after you got married. Your first job was for 800 rupees a month in a local nursery. Was that because you were determined to be more than just Mukesh's wife?
Not really, Karan. I always had this passion for teaching, education, children. And Mukesh encouraged me to be my own person. And I just followed my own pursuits and I enjoyed it. I went and applied for this job, and when I got it, I asked Mukesh, is it all right if I work? And he said, go ahead.
In fact, there was the lovely occasion when one of the parents at the school, in gratitude, gave you passes to the Reliance Cup finals.
This is really something quite funny, Karan. You know, one of the parents offered me 2 free tickets of the Reliance World Cup.
1987.
1987.
Cricket matches.
And they had no idea who you were.
No, I was working as a teacher and I was their child's teacher in school. And he said, you can go and see this with your husband or whoever. These are 2 tickets that I'm giving you for the World Cup. I declined. The next day, I was at the stadium watching the match, and he met me, and I was sitting in the president's box.
What did he say?
He says, what are you doing here? I didn't answer for a moment. And then someone came by and introduced me to him and said, this is Nita, Mukesh's wife. And you should have seen his face.
Mukesh, since then, of course, Nita has gone on to play a much more important and significant role in Reliance projects, particularly Knowledge City and the Dhirubhai Ambani School. But she always says it was a casual challenge that you threw in her direction that sparked it off.
Yes, after our children were born, like Nita was always like very, very passionate about education, but then she gave up like everything and focused only on the children. I think that really in the around the time we were building Jamnagar, that was mid-90s, like the children were now like well settled, and I like challenged her in that sense in terms of saying, let's see like all your talents. And you like I was very passionate about building Jamnagar, and the challenge really was not only to bring out her best. She's very good in architecture, in really education and health. We're building all kinds of infrastructure there, but I think for us the most important thing was to build a new business and to bring 3,000 families into Jamnagar from literally all over the world.
And this was something you thought she could do for you?
Absolutely. And we really needed to weave the aspirations of the people like to our goal, and make sure that we really have a world-class refinery business. And I think that, you know, she initially was saying, you know, what will I do, what can I do? But once she got on with it, I think she did very well.
And I can see that she's delighted to hear you praising her. Has becoming his partner as well as his wife made the bond between you closer?
I definitely think so.
You don't have business quarrels at night, though.
No, we have discussions.
You know, last year you lost your father. You worked for years under him. But has it been difficult to then step into his shoes?
Well, for me and for all of us at the family, like, we feel his virtual presence, and for him, business and Reliance was his entire life, right? And that's what he
Is it your entire life
worked
today?
for. Yes, today, like, for me, continuing that legacy, making sure that whatever he spent his life on is institutionalized,
That's your commitment.
is my commitment to him, my commitment to Reliance and all our people in terms. And it's very difficult for companies to go beyond individuals. There are very few companies in the world that have lasted centuries. And I think that's a commitment I have made to him, to myself, and to everybody at Reliance.
Nita, today as an Ambani, you're amongst one of the richest people in the country. What does money mean to you?
You know, often I have been asked or been told that, you know, you're probably one of the richest in India and things. But I think both Mukesh and myself feel that money nor wealth is an end to itself. It's how you use your wealth that is more important. And I tell Mukesh all the time that life is not about making money or making wealth. Life is actually about making memories, because that's all that you leave behind.
Does he have the time for that? Because he has such an obvious commitment to what his father did.
He is now consciously trying to spend a lot of time with me and the kids.
He's being a better father day by day.
He's been a good father. Now he's trying to be a better father.
Yeah, very good. Thanks for the certification.
Nita,
No, but I think this whole business current of making memories, you know, it's such a simple statement, but I think it's profound in saying that, and particularly now after Papa, like, the only thing that we have of him are his memories, and they are very dear to us. And I think that like Nita used to always say this, that, you know, every moment is important, and that's what life is all about. And I think it makes, I understand what she's saying.
Nita and Mukesh, a pleasure having the two of you on the program.
Thank you.
Thank you.